So here's a hot take for you. The narrative is not more important than the rules. Yeah, coming from me, someone that believes in the rule of cool and making, calls on the fly. Here's the point though. When the narrative is more important, it means the rules are in flux. As a player, that's one of the more frustrating things out there. Now, it's one thing to make an exception, but when everything becomes the exception and your narrative as the dungeon master is more important than me understanding the rules and how they work, stops me from being able to actively build my character a certain way, play the game a certain way. I don't know what to expect, and that's not fun. Certain things we want to have certainty of. Like, I want to be able to understand the rules of the game. And if you keep changing them to fit your narrative as the dungeon master, that's not okay. And if you change them to fit another player's narrative of the game, that's not fair. And if you do that to me and you change the rules to fit my narrative, that's not fair to the other players. So it's one thing to change a rule and homebrew it. I'm all about that. You know me, that's I'm big on homebrew and rule of cool. But if we're going to make a rule, it needs to be consistent because then we know how that rule is going to play out in the future. If you just decide how everything's going to turn out and there's no rules for me to base it on, then that's very frustrating for me as a player. So, no, the narrative is not more important than the rules. However, the narrative should influence the rules and the rules should support the narrative. That's a much more complex topic, but yeah, just your narrative as the dungeon master or another player's narrative and the rules matching up to those things, that's not okay because then that affects my fun because I want some rules that are consistent. And so I guess if the entire table is okay with just not playing by the rules, then why play a TTRPG game at all? Why have a system that's in the background? And there's nothing wrong with that either. If you don't want to have rules, then that's good. And if your table says, hey, we don't have any set rules, we figure it out as we go, but we use this as a baseline, I'm okay with that as well. I'm just not okay with it on my tables because I want some level of consistency. And I think most players are similar because when you leave the judgment to one person to decide when the rules are going to change to fit the narrative, I've never seen that work long term. Ever. Ever. And I've seen it done. And I've seen tables blow apart. But food for thought. That's all that is.